Hi everybody, Justin here from Watchuseek, and today we're having a look at the Glashütte Original SeaQ Panorama Date. The SeaQ Panorama Date was unveiled in 2019 as part of the brand's new Specialist collection. It seems Glashütte Original is looking to get back into the tool watch segment, and this is the first introduction, and we're expecting more in the years to come. What we're looking at here is the Panorama Date. However, there's also the standard SeaQ and the SeaQ 1969, which is a limited edition run of 69 pieces, which sold out rather quickly. With these three pieces, we get different strap and bracelet combinations, which works out to about 11 different models. If you stay tuned into our channel, you'll see another video coming shortly of the SeaQ itself. Now, the SeaQ Panorama Date is a proper dive watch, even though we're talking about a brand that's typically known for its dressier pieces. The watch is both DIN 8306 and ISO 6425 compliant, which means it meets all the specifications for a modern diver. One of the things with ISO compliance and DIN compliance is that there needs to be a loomed marker at every 5-minute or every hour indication. With the use of a panorama date window like they've done here, it's a bit tricky to fit one in, but you'll notice that marker at 4 o'clock is luminous and will glow just like the rest of the markers on the watch. One thing that I found really interesting when researching these pieces is that, unlike most other manufacturers, Glashütte Original actually tests all of their SeaQ watches for ISO and DIN compliance before they're shipped to retailers. Now, in terms of dimensions, you're looking at 43.2 millimeters in diameter and 15.56 in case thickness. Now, you would think this would be fairly chunky, but because of the thinner case profile, it wears surprisingly comfortable on the wrist. These specs are very much in line with that of the Omega Planet Ocean, among others, but the watch wears very differently. You'll note that Glashütte Original uses a domed sapphire crystal on this to maintain that vintage feel, and it's given a significant amount of AR coating as well, which is quite helpful for legibility. Its bezel is a 120-click unidirectional bezel, and it has a very firm action to it, as you can see here. There's no backplay to it, and it feels quite sturdy overall. The ceramic insert is definitely a more modern touch, but is kind of the standard for the industry these days. Also, sticking with ISO compliance, the triangle at 0 is luminous. The brand opted to use large, oversized indices both for its batten markers and for its numerals, which is sticking with the design of the original model. They have a healthy dose of superluminova, and they glow quite brightly in the dark. Both the blue and black dials have a sunray finish to them as well, which provides a little bit more contrast. The hands of the watch continue with this oversized theme. The maxi arrow hand for the minute and the lollipop second hands are a nice touch, and you can see there's a GG logo as the counterbalance to that second hand. One of my favorite details on the watch is actually the oversized screw-down crown, which you can see here. It's definitely on the larger side, however it doesn't overshadow the case proportions, and it has a nice firm grip texture to it, so it's easy to operate. A lot of times with other dive watches that kind of fall into the vintage inspired look, brands will compromise function for form. This isn't the case here. While we've got the crown unscrewed, I can show you how the large date window operates. Unlike other watches where the date will slowly flip over the last hour, there's an instantaneous jump that'll occur right as you reach the midnight mark. See, as we approach here, like so. And the crown easily screws back in, and there's no fussing or trying to get it set properly. Aside from the expected metal and rubber straps, the brand also fitted this mesh nylon to the Panorama Date, which is surprisingly comfortable. Its texture on the outside seems a bit firm. However, if you flip it over, there's an additional softness applied to the back that is very comfortable on the wrist, and yet even though the watch is fairly large, it feels sturdy when being worn. This strap was fitted with a deployant buckle that you can see here, which is a butterfly type closure, which is much more comfortable than the single fold that you'll often see. Now, while I personally prefer the butterfly style deployant, you can also get a pin buckle if that's your preference. Now, when looking at the bracelet model, the bracelet is rather chunky, but it suits the size of the watch. One of the other clever bits of engineering that's been included in this is a micro adjustment built into the clasp. if you press the logo, there's about a half link of micro adjustment fitted into the clasp. This type of mechanism is actually quite similar to something that we've seen from IWC in years past, and we're kind of surprised that other brands aren't using it. Now, before we even get into the movement details, you can see that Glashütte Original took this project very seriously. Entering a new segment like this can be risky, but whoever took the helm in designing the SeaQ definitely did their homework. Now, if we flip the watch over, surprisingly we have an exhibition case back for a dive watch, which isn't particularly common, but given the specs of this movement, we can see why Glashütte Original would go that route. The caliber 3613 is a fantastic movement, both in finishing and in performance. In terms of visuals, we see Glashütte ribbing throughout the movement, a gold oscillating weight, blued screws, and a swan neck regulator, which is the tradition in Glashütte watchmaking. In terms of performance, we see a silicone balance spring, which helps improve stability and magnetic resistance. Though it uses a single mainspring barrel, it has a 100-hour power reserve, which is roughly 4 days. This is precisely why they chose a gold oscillating rotor, because it takes a bit more effort to rind up a mainspring of that size. Now, while this caliber isn't COSC certified, every caliber 36 from Glashütte Original has to clear a 24-day excellence test. The brand puts the watch through a series of tests over that period, looking for a maximum deviation of -4 to +6 seconds a day, which is the same standard as COSC. This covers different positions as well as temperatures going from 8 to 23 to 38 degrees Celsius. Now, as I mentioned before, this isn't an unsubstantial watch on the wrist. Now, as a point of reference, my wrists are about 6 3/4 inches in diameter. While we don't have a lug-to-lug spec, you can see that the fit is still relatively conservative. While it's not overpowering on the wrist, this certainly isn't something that you would be wearing with a suit and tie, but it's also not so large that it's overbearing for day-to-day wear. Coming in at 30 bar or 300 meters of water resistance, this thing is definitely built to take just about anything you can throw at it, even though it's a higher-end dive watch. As a first entry into the modern dive watch space, we'd happily recommend this Glashütte Original for anyone who's looking to add something a bit different to their collection. Personally, given the options, the mesh strap would be the way to go, but if you're a bracelet guy, this is certainly a comfortable option as well.